This one's called Why Bad Things Happen. So what I've noticed is that many people only consider the kind of micro impacts of their actions. They don't consider how their behavior and choices might affect the whole of society, you know, I bet with some sort of a time lag attached to it. So, you know, yesterday I talked about extra time for dyslexics and how that's led to the UK education system being corrupted. And then it's layers of corruption on corruption. So, you know, you've got teachers who are being paid an element of their salary according to student exam results. So, of course, they're going to push for extra time in the state sector even, but only if the parents can pay for that. Anyway, other examples that have been brought up by other people that I also recognised was people lying about where they live in order to get into state schools that are deemed to be kind of more desirable. So the point I'm trying to get at here is that people are very, very short-termist, and they only think about the here and now and how it's going to affect them. So, you know, you might have somebody who's, I don't know, some grandmother or something, and they love their grandchildren dearly, and they know that in a place like Britain, exam results are still really, really important. So they'll turn a blind eye to cheating, you know, in the form of paying for an educational psychologist report that's granted extra time on the basis of slow handwriting speed. I kid you not, these sorts of things happen. Or people that claim extra welfare benefits on the basis of disabilities for their children, you know, ADHD and all of that, that don't exist. People just think, well, I'm just going to do it. What these people don't understand is that their behaviour patterns influence other people. And as I said to you the other day, you know, it's like the Tetley Bitter men. It's this, if you can't beat them, join them. And you have this moral decline. So people notice and then they copy, you know. So they think, well, this is acceptable now. This is acceptable. And if I don't do it, my kids are going to be disadvantaged. And before you know it, the whole thing descends into, well, what Britain's become, an increasingly corrupt country that resembles something from the third world. And the only people who are to blame for that are the British people themselves. They've stayed quiet for too long, and you know, they've participated in this race to the bottom in terms of morality. So, you know, I was thinking about this, and there's a section in the Bible about it. So Luke chapter 10, it starts verse 25. And it says, and behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He, that's Jesus, said unto him, what is written in the law? How readest thou? And he answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbour as thyself. And he, Jesus, said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. And he, willingly to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbour? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and where he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. So basically, what I'm trying to get at here is people don't think about the consequences of their actions. They've lost sight that their neighbours aren't just like literally the people that live next door. That their neighbours are the other people in society. And if you try to pull stunts, you know, you might think it's a victimless crime, but what I'm saying is that it's not a victimless crime. It actually corrodes your culture. And you end up having to live in your own mess that you actually created, because you get these race to the bottoms. You know, somebody else said something very interesting in the comments yesterday. It's like, well, you know, do these people who game the system, you know, to try and get extra time for their kids, do they actually think about, you know, the other people who, you know, I think one person talked about somebody who became a doctor, and to get into medical school, you need really good A-level results, and this person had extra time. So it's high, you know, we're looking at very fine margins here. To get into medical school, it's very, very competitive. So in all probability, this person with extra time wouldn't have achieved the grades that they needed to get into medical school without the assistance of extra time. So the question is, what about the person that would have got that medical school place if that other person who had the so-called dyslexia hadn't have cheated? You know, they might have been a better doctor. So, you know, and then society's losing out again. So we have to consider this really, really carefully. And what I'm urging people to do is to think beyond themselves, you know, and to think a little bit further ahead. You know, I know it's, in some ways, it's, you know, it's nice for parents to care about the children and for want the best for them, but that should end at the point of pulling stunts like the dyslexia scam or lying about where you live to try to get into a better school, because as I keep on saying, these aren't victimless crimes. Other people suffer as a result of that. And also you have this moral decline, as I keep on trying to say. So that's all that I'm trying to get at here today is think about the wider consequences of your actions. It's not all about you. It's not all about the short term. You have to think about how your actions might affect culture, and it spreads like a cancer. As soon as one person's, you know, again, I know this as a teacher, if you're in a classroom and you want to keep good discipline, as I always wanted to do, you know, if you saw some bad behavior, you had to stamp down on it really quickly, because if you didn't, it would spread. And then you would have, you know, maybe half, 3/4 of the class acting up. So, you know, people adjust their behaviour according to what they see others doing and whether that's deemed acceptable. So I think people have a responsibility to each other not to lie, cheat and steal. You know, and again, for me as a free market economist, if you have a culture whereby people are lying, committing fraud, and that's what dyslexia kind of amounts to, cheating, stealing, people won't trust each other. And in the private sector, if you don't trust somebody, you won't enter into a voluntary exchange with them if you don't trust them. So the whole of society crumbles. People can't trust each other, so they're not going to transact. So the whole of society gets poorer. You know, and as I say, you know, yesterday, is that what I really like living here is that there is a high trust society. And it's, what I would say to Brits is, it's worth it. Look, don't chat, don't scam, don't be economical with the truth. Don't, I know I said I wouldn't swear, but I'll make an exception this time. Don't bullshit, because it has consequences for wider society. You know, you know, my message to Brits is change your ways. Otherwise, you're going to reap what you sow. Don't you have no right to complain about Britain descending into a third world country, because too many of you have either participated in the fraud, or like in this Bible passage here, you've turned a blind eye. You've not spoken out about it. You know, when you see people lying, cheating, stealing, doing stuff, that you need to speak out. You know, so again, you know, we talk about people who, you know, maybe doctors and nurses. I think only 50% are going to the concerts now. But far more of them than that are still taking taxpayers' money to take your kids and your grandparents to the Britney Spears concerts. These people need to speak up. And what they're currently doing is being like the person that passed on the other side of the road rather than the Good Samaritan. You have a duty to speak up and speak the truth rather than being short-termist and cowardly. So that's all that I want to say today. So God bless.